All right, this is my final version of the TypeScript blockchain node. I've been a little busy with exams, but I did just get moved back home, so I had a bunch of time to work on this today, and I was able to add a lot of functionality. Um, I'll discuss I'll discuss that towards the end a little bit though, because it's not as much as there could be, um, but it's also not any more than was requested in the instructions. So here's the code. There's a lot more code now. And here for the demonstration. So, hang on, I'm going to cd over to the correct directory for it. Okay, it's similar functionality to before. We're running one node as a server. The naming is a little unfortunate. Node.js. It's a fairly simple command line interface. The server mostly just spits out the information that it receives and says what it's doing. You just start it. For the client, it's a little bit more involved. There's a rudimentary command line interface that could be a decent amount prettier, but it definitely works. And so here you can see it's going to prompt the user continually for commands. If I hit H, it will print out a list of the commands I can do. Now up here you can see that the server already received the hello. The client does the handshake automatically just when you start it. It tries to connect to the port and, yada yada, sends a hello message version, and the server verifies that. Now for the different commands, they're all really bare bones because we don't actually have, a real network running. And I didn't really have a ton of time to just come up with tons and tons and tons of test data. So currently it all works and works in the valid format. There's just, empty data fields. So let's go, for example, get peers. You can see the server received it, and the interface does have a little bit of a bug where it will duplicate this message, but it will send a message back, and the client will parse that, and it'll see that, hey, there was a peers field. The peers field is currently an empty array because the server doesn't actually store anything, because there wouldn't really be any point to it without a whole network running of actual other peers and hosts. But it does send a peers message in response, and it knows what it's getting. And then we can do the same thing with mempool. It's going to send an empty... Oh, I haven't recompiled it. I just added that feature because there was one typo in the code. So let's do a little bit of live recoding. Give that just a second. Yeah, one of the fields in one of the messages was misnamed from what it should have been. Start the server again. Node.js. All right, server's listening. Let's start a client again. So now if I do a mempool command, let's recompile this one more time, I guess. Isn't that what it's named? TXIDs. Well, I'm not sure why this is going wrong, actually. I'm not that familiar with TypeScript. Type is mempool. TXIDs is a blank array. Here we have peers, and peers is a blank array, and that works. So why doesn't this? TXIDs. TXIDs. I mean, that's correct. That should be working. Oh, well, this is fun, isn't it? Ooh, lovely. I mean, clearly the server is working. It's getting the right messages. I'm just not sure why it's kind of choking on a mempool message. Okay, there we go. And now it worked. I'm not sure. Maybe I had to recompile on this one. But there we go. There's some live demo coding for you. So for a get object message, because there's just not any objects, it's just going to generate a random hash right now, but you could easily change that to generate the hash of this specific object. It'll send that to the server. You can see the server is going to echo the ID that it received. And currently the server also, because it stores no objects, rolls the dice just so that we have some error messages every now and then, because usually the messages, pass between without any errors. So the server just does a 50-50 chance to say, hey, I have this object, or no, I don't have this object. This time it responded with the correct unknown object error message for if it didn't have an object. Obviously, you could replace the code on the server from a random dice roll to actually checking with a list if we had a bunch of objects. So next we'll do another object command and see if it let's do this another two. Okay, there we go. I'm not sure if there was a bug in it or not, but every now and then it does have a tendency to just go on runs of the same thing over and over. Maybe that's just part of the TypeScript random library. But here we go. We can see it then responded with an I have object message, and that corresponds correctly to this second to last hash here. So now let's give it a help message again, just so it kind of gives some space between all the objects. Finally, we'll do a chain tip message. The server just randomly generates a chain tip hash because it's not storing any blocks right now. But again, you could get it to hash a block object instead. So yeah, that's the node as it stands right now. This is some demonstration that, I mean, I don't know TypeScript all that well, but I do understand like how this is supposed to work and how you would extend this. If we had a network of nodes and we're actually like live demonstrating them with each other, this would be a lot easier to actually like test out the blockchain functionality, but we were really just working on the networking. And I think that this clearly demonstrates that we know what we're doing with, or that I know what I'm doing at least with the networking. It's sending messages back and forth. It is verifying, and it will send errors if it encounters problems. Running through localhost, it basically never encounters problems, so it's hard to demonstrate that. If you quit, the server will register that the client disconnected. You can reconnect with a new client, and the server will also demonstrate, or it will also echo the fact that a new client connected, echo the message it received, and report that the handshake occurred. We can just quit this one. The server you have to actually kill well, if it would let me, with command line kill. But yeah, there you go. Client, server, and I think this demonstrates all the basic functionality and could definitely be extended to emulate the full blockchain. It's just really difficult to do that with only one node at a time. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.